I'd rather create something that others criticise than create nothing and criticise others.
If you have high quality product behind the bar, it's like weapon.
It's not about the figures. It's about who those figures are.
The Hospopreneurs Podcast.
I'm going to drink this beer.
Yeah, let's crack them.
With James Henderson.
Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Hospopreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, James Henderson, and on the show today, Glenn Morgan shares his entrepreneurial journey and how he stumbled into owning Barport, one of the most popular barware businesses in Australia. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Cheers. Hello and welcome to the show, Glenn.
Thank you for having me.
No worries, mate. No worries at all. Well, the way that I like to start the episode is by asking, have you got a crazy hospitality story?
Ooh, yeah, there's a few things over the years. Some that I'm not too proud of. I guess finishing up with certain bars and deciding, to polish off a bottle of something nice on the final shift.
Yeah.
Getting carried out the stairs. That's never a good way to end.
No. It doesn't have to be you. It can be like a patron or, something you've
Wish
seen.
I'd known that before I outed myself. I had Christina Aguilera come into a bar that I was working in one night and
just a
insisted
first name basis there too.
Yeah, Christina. Yeah, we're great mates. She insisted that we close down the bar and had a lock-in, and she made me teach her how to play bar billiards. And we ended up there most of the night. But yeah, she was an interesting piece of work.
Was she good?
No, rubbish. Bad teacher, I suppose.
Oh wow. Dude, I like that. Man, tell us, do you have any more about that story? Even just that one. I want to open that up.
No,
Where was that?
That was a little bar over in London called Hicks. It was a nice little place. But
Yeah,
that was about
right.
most of it, yeah.
And Christina Aguilera just
Strolled
walks on
in.
in.
Yeah, we were about to go for a beer, and there she was. So
Yeah, right.
what can you do?
So now she's on speed dial.
No, not quite. No, she won't return my calls.
Oh man, love it. What's your hospitality journey been like?
It's been a long one. I've been in it most of my life. My parents bought a hotel when I was a kid, so I actually grew up in the motel business. I lived in the motel and pretty much took whatever job I could at that age, whether it was taking the bins out, setting up the breakfast buffets, cleaning the rooms, really whatever I was capable of at that age. I guess when I was about 17, I just wanted to get into the bar side of it. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. And as a kid, watching them all turn 18, start going to bars, it just seemed like the most glamorous life in the world for me. So ever since I was, 12, 13, I was just itching to get into bars.
Yeah.
So, of course, when I hit 17, I started as a glassy, working in some pubs. The day I turned 18, jumped in behind the bar. By 19, I jumped into management. Was going okay in that direction, and then got the cocktail bug.
Yep.
Got really excited about that, and still am, obviously. So travelled the world a little bit doing that.
Yeah.
And I guess...
Where did you travel doing that?
Mostly just around England, in London. I spent a good 4 years over there, and definitely enjoyed that. Most recently, I suppose, I've been on the brand side of things, working for brands, whether in the training departments or in sales.
Yep.
So yeah, a bit of everything really, but always been in the industry and certainly a big fan of it.
Yeah, right. So you said you're working with brands now.
Yep.
What brands do you work with?
At the moment, the biggest one is Brookie's Gin with the Cape Byron Distillery. Amazing bunch of people and an amazing brand.
We just had an episode with Eddie last week.
Yeah, I did hear that. And
awesome.
A phenomenal company, a phenomenal gin. So you couldn't get me in there any quicker. I was pretty keen to get on board with them. I still do a little bit of work with South Trade with all of their brands. I do a lot of work with Asahi in their portfolio, doing a bit with Red Bull, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty much open to...
Man, that's interesting. How do you collect a portfolio of brands to sell for?
Look, I'm pretty lucky. When I moved back, I started my own company, and I've had that there for about 4 or 5 years. And it's only recently that I've started doing that full time. And because I'm not tied in with any one particular brand, I do get a lot of offers from companies saying, look, we want someone non-subjective that's just going to come in and do a training and, teach people about our particular brand or the category or whatever it may be. So I guess I've just been lucky that people have come to me with these offers, and I've always been keen to get on board. I enjoy doing it.
So. Don't they want someone full-time or like... the impression I get is that some of these brands want someone full-time role to be out there on the road.
But I mean, having someone on the road 7 or 5 days a week, it costs a lot of money, and it's not necessarily there's always a need for it. If it's just the training, they sometimes only come up, once or twice a month.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
So it's just for me, it's just a bit of fun. I really enjoy doing trainings. I enjoy teaching. And I enjoy talking about the industry in general. So
awesome.
For me, it's just a good opportunity.
Tell us a bit about your business.
My business, it's called Barport. So it's a cocktail equipment company. As I said, we started about 5 years ago. Myself and my partner, Rena, we moved back from London, and there was plenty of it over there. There was plenty of companies doing it. It was easy to get this sort of thing. And we knew that just wasn't available in Australia. So we moved back, and just with some money we had in the bank, pretty much started it from scratch.
Yeah.
Knowing absolutely nothing. We just really clawed our way around until we all of a sudden had a business there, and started off with about a dozen products, just high-end bar gear. We've got about 200 now.
Wow, yeah.
Ranging from, high-end mixing glasses to things like napkins and straws, toilet paper. It's gone in a weird direction, but we're quite happy with it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I'm going to open that up a little bit more over the episode. Sure. But why? So a question I'd also like to ask is, why do you do what you do?
I've been in the industry my whole life. It's really all I know, to be honest. I came out of high school and had no interest in going to university. I had no particular plans of which direction I wanted to go in terms of a career. All I knew at the time was I wanted to get behind the bar. I wanted to make drinks. That was the only thing that was calling out to me. And for years, people have been saying, you've got to come up with a plan B because you're going to get sick of this one day. I'm 31 now and I'm still not sick of it. I don't see it happening. I consider it my career that's, it's going to keep me going for the rest of my life. And for me, that's enough. I'm content. I'm happy. What
is it about the industry that inspires you?
Look, I love the drinks. Don't get me wrong. I do enjoy a drink. But the things that go into the brands, not only the marketing and everything that goes in behind the scenes of a brand, bring your brand to life, as I heard you talking with Eddie about in the last show. There's so much going on in there, and it's very, very intricate. And a lot of people don't get to see that, but for me, that it blows me away what it takes to put something in a bottle and get it out there. And it's easy enough to do, but to get it to sell, it's a whole other story. So I'm just passionate about the brands themselves. I love making drinks, but probably more than anything, I love talking to people. And I've always said that what we get to do in our industry, it's instant gratification. You get gratification, sometimes 100 times over the course of a night, because a transaction can take, a couple of minutes, and you can make someone's day. You can make or break it, but if you can make everyone's night, you have people walk away from you constantly all night saying, I love what you did. I've had a great night, and I can't appreciate it more, So for me, making people's nights over and over and over again, I love that. Trying to make people happy, I suppose. So, I think that's the biggest part.
I think that motivates a lot of bartenders, is that
absolutely
to be able to provide a high quality experience every time for every patron.
Yeah,
and that's what hospitality is about.
Absolutely, it's the core of it.
Yeah. So with regarding more specifically with Barport, what made you touched on a little bit there before? What made you want to found a barware business?
As I said, I just saw the gap in the market, and look, I knew it was never going to be a monster of a business that was going to make me millions of dollars, but if you come around to my house, you'll see that I love to collect this sort of thing. I love barware, I love bottles. I've got hundreds and hundreds of bottles sitting up on my shelves and barware everywhere. Whether I had the business or not, I think I'd still do that because I just really love it. I'm a bit of a geek in that way. So part of it was just a passion that I wanted to kind of fulfill myself. But, I think I was telling myself that, there's a gap in the market there, so we've got to take it. Look, I'm glad I did now because it's developed into a good business, and we're really lucky in that regard. But, I think at the core of it, I just love it all. I'm a big nerd.
How did you identify that market gap?
Just through knowing people in the industry. I'd spent some time on the ground in Brisbane and obviously spent a little bit of time down in Sydney and Melbourne, and quality bar gear just wasn't really a thing at that stage. We're talking the mid to late 2000s, it just wasn't much great stuff around there. And when I was spoiled for choice in London and seeing some of the great tools that were out there, this is just as Japanese bartenders started really coming up and showcasing some of their beautiful gear. And having been spoiled, I knew I couldn't go back to using a stock standard Boston glass set.
Yeah.
I needed a nice cocktail shaker. I needed nice spoons, and
Yeah.
it had become part of making me feel comfortable behind the bar, having those nice tools. It was part of putting on the show, and I thought, well, I want to do that. I'm sure there's other people in the same boat as me that want to do that. So
Yeah.
I guess that's a gap. I'll see if I can slide in there.
And it really, really ups the game. Like it increases the caliber and the quality of the industry
Of course.
by increasing the quality of the tools.
Aesthetics is so important in bars. I mean, if you walk into a bar that just looks rubbish, of course there's a place for that. Dive bars are amazing, but you want to see that the guy behind the bar, the guy or girl, knows what they're doing, and generally a good way of seeing that and knowing that they're capable of making some good drinks is, the tools that you see on the bar. If you don't see any tools at all, you might assume straight away, well, I'll probably have a beer, but if I see a beautiful mixing glass on the top, I might straight away think, well, I might have a martini.
That's right.
Brookie's martini.
That's the way. That's the way. What was the process of creating the business? What are the sort of steps you took, and what did you go through?
I don't know if it was steps. It was more of a fumble. I kind of just
Usually
guessed
is.
my way around for a good few years. I guess I'm still guessing. We knew nothing about business when we started this. It was just a case of, I'll find these products. I managed to source, as I said, a dozen products from China. I put together an absolute horrible website. And, that was enough. It was an e-commerce website. You could buy stuff from there.
What did you make it on?
Look, I had some lady out of Gladstone or something do it, and it turned out to be an absolute disaster. I decided to take a holiday to Japan, and
when you say disaster, was it functional, or did it just look
it
horrendous?
functioned. It looked okay. It wasn't amazing, but it did the job. And for a limited budget, it was enough. But we lost contact with the lady who designed it, and just assumed that, well, it'll just keep running. But we went for a trip over to Japan to pick up a few new products, and the day we landed, she decided to show up again and turn off our website.
Oh, no.
Apparently we hadn't paid our bill, but we hadn't heard from her in 9 months.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, she had been through some illness, which was horrible.
Yeah.
We just assumed everything was okay.
Yeah.
It all happened when we went to Japan, which was a bit rough, but...
No, that's not a good holiday.
No, it wasn't the best. I spent the whole time fumbling around trying to find Wi-Fi so I could get a website up and running again. But look, it's all just been learning curves. We still fumble in the dark and really just learn from experience. We haven't been in a position where we've been able to go to people and say, what would you do in this situation? Because we don't really have anyone that's done this before. It's kind of a guessing game.
What about people overseas? Like, have you reached out to other barware businesses that might want to maybe even partner with you?
Look, unfortunately not. The one that was big overseas, we knew that they were going to hit the market in Australia at some point. They had given us their intention. They said they were about 4 years away, which is why we did it when we did, to get in early.
Yeah.
And whilst they were friends of mine, they're still competitors, and I'm sure they wouldn't have been too keen to help me along my way when they were planning on hitting the market themselves. So, I've just had to really just work my way through it. There's been people that, have business minds, but as you know, with our industry, it's a whole different kettle of fish. It's so different to what other people do. So, look, we've been lucky. We haven't had any major shortcomings. We've had a few, scams from China, buying product where, people will take a few thousand of your dollars here and there. But that's all part and parcel of dealing overseas. So, you learn the hard way, but we're definitely learning even still to this day.
Have you had to go overseas a lot to check out the equipment itself, or do you just order it in because it's all
not so much.
smaller?
My partner still goes to Japan every year. She's Japanese, so it's quite handy to have her over there to source good Japanese bar gear. So she gets over there a bit and picks up some new things.
I actually met her in Melbourne when I was there 2 years ago. So last July, so not this July, the previous July.
Yep.
And I met her at a little booth for the bar.
Bar show?
It was at the bar show.
Top Shelf, maybe?
Top Shelf, that's the one. And I met her there.
There you
But
go.
it's it's crazy. It's obviously it's a small world.
In this
but,
industry, it certainly is.
But so you said she goes to Japan and sources some really good equipment.
She does, yeah. Yeah, she's got a good eye for it. She's a phenomenal bartender herself. She doesn't actually work in the bar anymore, but she makes amazing drinks, amazing service. She's just a great all-rounder. So to have her on board as well is so helpful, because the two of us, we've got different points of view in the hospitality scene, and it's good to be able to bring those together and sort of say, well, I think this will work, I think this will work.
Yeah.
We agree on some, we don't agree on others, but it's good to have two opinions, so you don't just take all the fault yourself, I suppose. I can blame it on someone else and she can blame it on me.
Love it. So from the outset, you obviously had a partner to help you build the business.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you need investment, or what else did you need to build it?
Yeah, just that initial cash investment. Look, we went to the bank, and I guess they didn't see it as a promising business, and didn't really want to jump on board. Which was kind of a blessing in disguise, because we funded it ourselves with a little bit of money that we had there. Rena's amazing with money, so she had that. Luckily, if it were just me, I wouldn't have had a chance, because I'm just useless with money. But yeah, it's worked out well in the long run.
Going through, was that it? Was it like bank or ourselves? Was that it? Did you explore any other options?
We
outside
didn't
of that as well?
know. We didn't really know what we were doing. Again, this was 2012, and I'm not sure if crowdfunding was really a thing back then. I know it's prominent now, but I don't know if it was really kicking about so much back then. And I don't know. I love the idea of it, but I just don't think it was for us. So we just did it on a small finance, and luckily enough, we've managed to just continually invest not only our money but what we make back into the business. We didn't pay ourselves anything for the first 4 years of the business, so everything that we've made has been put back into growing the business and hopefully taking it somewhere. So
yeah. How did you go about? You said there was a lot of fumbling going about.
Cool, yeah.
How did you go about developing the idea?
Just brainstorming, I suppose. Just over a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Sit down and sort of say, well, what would work, what wouldn't. What sort of products are people going to be chasing? Is it something that you could get from your everyday kitchen store? There's plenty of those around. So those sorts of things weren't on the cards for us. It was only items that we thought really were niche and there really wasn't available here. So we went about sourcing the Pellini shaker and the Perlage system from the States, which either carbonates cocktails or preserves, sparkling wine, champagne, that sort of thing. So we got the rights to that and looked after that for a few years. So that was a good draw card for us. Things like tin-on-tin shakers that, again, 5 years ago you couldn't find in Australia.
Yeah.
Just things that we know there's demand for. But we've always got our ears to the ground and basically wait to hear what people are keen on. And if someone says, can you get this sort of thing in? If I'm capable of doing it and there's a market for it, I will.
Yeah.
So just listen to what people have to say, and you'll generally get the answers that you want.
In terms of commercialising the business, Barport is incredibly well known in Australia. In my experience, anyway, everyone knows Barport. What was the scene like when you started in Australia? You've talked about it a little bit. You said your glass Bostons.
Yeah.
And how did you take it to the market?
We were lucky to have a lot of friends in the industry, as we still do. We knew we could walk into those bars and say, look, how would you feel about trying this sort of thing out for us? And, it wasn't a charity situation. We didn't go in and say, please use our gear and, promote it for us. We were lucky that they wanted the gear. So by walking in the door with those products, they were keen to take them on. We use that as a platform for other bars. Some of the high-end bars in Brisbane, that people are going there to see what they're doing. And if they're doing something well, you want to take it back to your bar in little bits and do what you can to make your venue better. And that's what it's all about, this industry, is always, building and growing. So, we use those guys as a platform to really, spread it down. These days, we've sort of focused more on your everyday bar tools. Use stock standard stuff. We're under no illusions that there's a hell of a lot more pubs, nightclubs, RSLs, all of these sorts of great sort of places than there are small boutique cocktail bars. So we figured we'd been limiting ourselves by only looking after those sorts of guys. these days we're open to really deal with anyone we can, and we've got the range that's there to do it, and people are now seeing that and jumping on board, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So you really, from the get-go, you really just filled that need. It was obviously a need that was in the industry, and people just lapped it up. They're like,
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
totally need this stuff.
Look, there was another company that launched at the same time. We didn't know that was happening, but obviously there was that demand because people were trying to fill that gap.
So what was it that made people choose you guys over them?
Oh, look, I'm sure a lot of people still choose them as well, and I know the guys, they're a great bunch, but I guess for us it was all about service, coming from the service industry, getting things to them quickly, making sure they were packaged well, making sure the product that they saw on the website wasn't just an image that someone else took overseas, it was one that we took ourselves that really showed everything you needed to know.
A selfie with the Boston tin.
Pretty much, yeah. We might as well have been doing that, iPhone sort of photography. We just made sure that what we offered was exactly what they were going to get. They were going to get it quick. And price, at the end of the day, it's one of the biggest things in our industry. Premium's all well and good, and people will go for premium, but there's also another part of it that you need to fill, and it's just your stock standard everyday stuff.
Yeah.
People want that cheap. So, we've always been good in keeping our margins low and making sure that it's affordable, because I know the business, it's not easy running bars. It's not cheap running bars. And a lot of bars go out of business. So we want to make sure that we can do our bit to maybe keep people afloat. I don't know, but at least do the right thing by the industry.
So you mentioned there that you went through cocktail bars. What was the most effective way that you found to build your brand?
Working in them, or as in selling to them?
To build Barport as a brand.
Oh, okay. Again, just seeing the right people using it. We've gone a few times and done photo shoots with some influential bartenders and tied in some brands where we can. And basically, throwing them on social media. And if you get the right person that's got a good following, of course, they want to use the gear that they're using. So it's just been choosing the right people, the right bars. But again, not a big plan behind it. We thought that seemed like a good idea at the time, and I guess it was. Not too much thought in the process.
Just sort of, as you said, fumbling.
We're fumbling around still, but again, we make mistakes, but sometimes we get it right as well. And
yeah, right. Nice. So why do you think that was the best way to go about it now? Was it the best?
It was probably the only way that we had available to us. We didn't have a marketing budget. We certainly could put up ads on billboards or advertise in the bartender magazines. These things would have all been fantastic had we been able to afford them. But we just had to do what was available to us, and that was really all we had. And again, we've been lucky that some of our friends in the industry have been happy to help us out, and they don't mind seeing their face on my social media every couple of days. A lot of people would probably want something out of that, but these guys are great in helping me out. I buy them a beer and they're happy to do a shoot with me. So look, I don't know if it's the best way or the right way. It was just the only really option we had, and I think it's worked out okay.
How do you measure the sort of exposure that gives you?
It's really hard too. I mean, obviously with social media these days, you can track your hits and your shares, your likes, all of that. But how does it convert to sales? It's very hard to say. And whilst I'm sure some businesses have got their finger on the pulse in terms of being able to see how it directly correlates to sales, again, we don't. We're bartenders. We started this business as bartenders. We don't have business degrees. We're just people in the industry that like to think we know the industry pretty well. And just work on the same level as everyone. I still love to jump behind the bar on the weekend. Really all we are is bartenders that have a little side business.
Right. Well, I mean, I was going to say, even in the intro to the show, I mean, it's come up previously in other episodes about social media. Social media is obviously massive. But even in the intro to the show, in my episode with Dan Norris, that's where that snipper's from, and I said that it's not about the figures, it's about who those figures are. Right? Because you might have 100 people looking at the things you have online, but those 100 people might be absolute gun influencers. Or you might have 10,000 and they could be, they might not be interacting with, they might not be interacting with what you're doing.
Yep.
So in the end, numbers can mean a lot or mean very little. It depends who they are.
Our market's very, very niche. If people aren't involved in the industry, they probably have no need for what we do. Of course, people, set up little home bars and whatnot, but that's a very, very small percentage. So it's important for us that we really only reach the industry. We don't really want to hit everyone else. It's just about hitting the industry, hitting our target demographic, and making sure that the right people, as you just said, see it. Hopefully, if they do it, word'll spread.
Yeah, awesome. Right now, what is it that you're learning about?
Oh, so much. There's always something going on. For me, being a small business, and we don't really have any employees, it's myself and Rena. It's always a challenge keeping everything afloat. It's a juggling act, and with all the other stuff I do, there's a lot of balls in the air. So my biggest thing is always just managing my time well, putting in the hours, and making sure that I'm, getting something out of them and using my hours wisely. What I want to sort of delve into further is that, I am fascinated by business and marketing. I'd love to learn more about it as I go. Not saying I'm going to, start a uni degree and jump into business, but, little things that people can teach me as I go along. And I'm lucky to work with some great parents that, do pass on some information.
Yeah, awesome.
I'll take on whatever I can get.
There are plenty of resources out there as well. And I mean, in the last episode with Eddie, he'd be an awesome dude to talk to learn about the sorts of things even he'd be reading.
Absolutely,
as well. And in previous episodes, so much content that we talk about marketing, things, books and resources to absorb to help with that.
Definitely stuff I'm keen to learn. So
awesome. To follow on from that question, what so far would be your number one industry resource? It'd probably be social media. I think we wouldn't be ticking along as well, not just my business, but the industry itself. We've just done a bunch of tastings with brookies the last couple of days around Brisbane, and I don't know how we would have done that without social media. I don't know how we did that before it was so prominent, before we had the bartender networks and whatnot. How did we get word out for people to come to a gin tasting? I have no idea. People used to turn up, but it just baffles me. I really don't know. So it's definitely the best tool we have, not only in terms of marketing, but just giving people a place to get together. They can all chat and go, all right, we do have a gin tasting on. I'm going to go down to that. I want to learn about gin. So, for me, it's a very powerful tool. And in terms of your own learning and development, do you have another resource that you've learned a lot from?
Can't say that I do, really. No.
Okay. Because a lot of the time it can be tacit knowledge. So, you're obviously, learning from other people when you're in the bar or around and about. You just pick things up from all over the place. Is that...
I hope so. I like to think that I'm a fairly observant sort of guy and I do pick things up. But, it's probably sort of subconsciously a lot of the time. I think a lot of it comes down to common sense. Regardless of what you're doing, just don't mess people about. Look after people. At the core of every business should be looking after people, whether it be the people that work for you or your customer at the end of the day. If you look after people, good things generally happen. So that's 100%. What we're all about, whether it be through providing a good product or good service, just look after them.
And that's what we do in the bar too.
Absolutely. That's probably why I feel that way.
Yeah. What's your biggest challenge right now?
Biggest challenge, hours in the day. I need more of them.
Don't we all? We all have 24.
Absolutely.
Finite resource.
Look, I work a lot of hours and I'm happy to do that, but I guess it's just, time management, making sure that I can keep everyone happy and not do a rubbish job on any of the things that I'm doing. It's very easy to take on a million jobs, but it's very easy to start doing them very half-assed. I don't want to do that. So for me, it's put in the extra hours, but make sure I'm doing a banging job of everything that I do.
Yeah.
Make sure that brands that are, wanting to employ me still want to do that.
Yeah.
Make sure that they're getting a great result. Make sure that whatever it is that they need to achieve, they do achieve. And of course, with Barport as well, obviously I've got my goals that I want to hit. It's just about keep slogging away and make sure that I can achieve them.
Yeah, it can be a real struggle for a lot of creative minds. They want to take on all these things, they get sidetracked and distracted. And it's about the actually doing of the thing that you need to do.
That's right. And I get very excited because, when a brand comes to me and offers me a job, and at the moment I'm full. I can't do any more brands. As much as I get really excited, I've had some great offers just in the last week with brands that I absolutely love, but I can't do it because right now I'm just flat out. So I want to focus on the ones that I'm doing. I want to do them well. Brookies is my main thing, obviously with Barport. I want to make sure that brand gets plenty of love and attention and grows in Brisbane and Queensland. Yeah, it's just time management. It's something I've gotten a lot better at, but you can always get better.
There you go. That's your challenge at the moment.
Yeah.
Time management. One last question for you, Glenn. What's next for Glenn Morgan?
Beer, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's been a long day, and look, no big plans for me. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I think that Barport's doing really well, and people are starting to see it. There's no plans to go international or anything. We're going to stay local. Queensland's a big market for us, but we'll definitely try and push a little bit harder in places like Victoria, WA. So I suppose that's probably next on the agenda. But
awesome. Love it. Cool. Well, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers.
Enjoy the episode? Like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram to stay in the loop at Hospopreneurs. Want to be a part of the show or know a hospopreneur? Send us an email, hospopreneurs@gmail.com. Interviewing creative and innovative minds in hospitality. The Hospopreneurs Podcast with James Henderson.